Once upon a time in the dreary town of Wrexham, there stood an institution of supposed higher learning, Wrexham University. It was here that my tale of woe unfolded, a saga soaked in the tears of disillusionment and the ink of broken promises. As I stepped through the gates of Wrexham University, a naive dreamer fresh from an ex-Soviet embrace, I was greeted not with open arms, but with the cold indifference of a place that seemed to have forgotten the meaning of warmth and welcome. The accommodation, oh the accommodation, a damp, cramped, overpriced cell they called a dormitory. I could feel the mold caressing my lungs with its spores, whispering of illness and despair. It was a far cry from the cosy nooks I had imagined, where knowledge and camaraderie would bloom. The lecturers, those beacons of wisdom I had eagerly anticipated, were but phantoms in the halls. Their communication was akin to the silence of the grave, their schedules as fickle as the weather in these British Isles. I was but a number, a mere cipher in their grand academic scheme. Modules were cast aside like unwanted toys, and the replacements, my oh my, they were but hollow shells, devoid of the love and rigour one expects in the pursuit of enlightenment. And the career's advice, a cruel jest. I sought guidance like a lost child in a dense forest, only to find that the so-called advisors were as helpful as a map of the stars to a blind man. They were completely unprepared, or perhaps unwilling, to steer me through the murky waters of my chosen field. Wrexham town itself, the backdrop to my academic endeavours, was a landscape of desolation, a place where hope seemed to wither on the vine. The campus, rather than being a vibrant heart, felt like an island adrift in a sea of indifference. It was here, in this place of broken dreams, that my mental health began to fray at the edges, a delicate tapestry unravelling in the face of overwhelming apathy. The support services, meant to be a lifeline, were but a mirage in the desert of my distress. Overwhelmed and unhelpful, they were like trying to quench a raging fire with a thimble of water. The facilities, touted as cutting edge, were outdated relics, museum pieces that mocked my expectations with their obsolescence. The library, a tomb of knowledge, was always crowded, a battleground where the quest for a quiet corner was fought with the ferocity of a medieval siege. Lecturers, those once respected figures, seemed disinterested, underprepared, and as distant as the stars in the night sky. The quality of teaching was as inconsistent as the British summer, shocking the senses and leaving one longing for the warmth of competence. Bureaucracy, the dark spectre that haunted the corridors, was a nightmare of Kafkaesque proportions. Forms upon forms, a labyrinth of red tape designed not to assist but to hinder, to ensnare the unwary in a web of frustration and despair. And the cost, oh the cost! To pay such a princely sum for such meagre offerings was akin to purchasing a golden ticket, only to find the chocolate factory was but a dilapidated shack. There are, without a doubt, much better universities for the money, places where one's investment yields not alone a degree, but an education of the soul. As an overseas student, I was promised a garden of knowledge, a place where my mind could flourish. Instead, I found a wasteland, a place where even success was met with the cold hand of failure. To pass all modules and still be failed in some, with no chance of redemption, was a cruel twist of fate that left a bitter taste upon my tongue. For those
Opening with a soft, somber tone in the quaint town of Wrexham, nestled near the bustling halls of Wrexham University, one might expect a harmonious blend of commerce and community. However, the reality, as painted by the whispers of discontent echoing through the corridors of customer reviews, presents a different picture. Here, we embark on a journey through the business landscape, a tapestry of experiences that, while diverse, share a common thread of disappointment. Transitioning to a more analytical tone, Eagles Meadow Shopping Center, once heralded as the town's beacon of commercial vitality, now stands as a monument to unfulfilled promises. The air is thick with laments of a dreary atmosphere, a testament to the shopping center's struggle to captivate the hearts and footsteps of Wrexham's populace. Parking woes add salt to the wound, with a system so archaic it seems to belong to a bygone era. The security's approach to crowd control leaves much to be desired, with tales of inappropriate language marring what should be a family-friendly environment. The culinary scene fares no better. Gusto di Italia, a name that evokes images of Italian gastronomic delight, falls short of its romantic promise. Here, pizza is not just a dish, it's a culinary catastrophe, where the crust flirts with both sogginess and char, a duality that should never coexist on a single pie. The pasta, too, seems to have missed the memo on flavor, leaving diners questioning the authenticity of the Italian experience they so eagerly sought. As we stroll further into the heart of Wrexham, we encounter Bank Street Social. This establishment, it seems, has yet to master the delicate art of hospitality. Patrons speak of being rushed and treated with a lack of empathy, an unfortunate hiccup in what could have been a cozy retreat for coffee aficionados. The nightlife, often the pulse of a university town, appears to falter in the hands of Attic Wrexham. Here, the promise of a vibrant evening is overshadowed by accounts of disorder and a laissez-faire approach to patron safety. The club's atmosphere, it seems, is as much a gamble as the drinks they serve. Finally, Levant Kitchen Bar Wrexham steps onto the stage, boasting a setting that is, quite literally, shrouded in darkness. Food, when finally located under the dim glow of ambient lighting, tells a tale of underwhelming flavors and questionable presentation. The separation of patrons into different rooms adds a layer of mystery to the dining experience, leaving one to wonder if they've unwittingly become part of an avant-garde theatrical performance. Shifting to a compassionate, advisory tone, dear traveler, as you wander through the streets of Wrexham, armed with the foresight of those who have walked before you, approach with cautious optimism. Let the tales of disappointment guide you, not to deter, but to prepare you for an experience that may fall short of the idyllic. Seek out the gems that lie hidden amongst the cacophony of commercial strife, and perhaps, with a dash of luck, you may uncover a treasure that defies the narrative woven by the disenchanted. Concluding with a hopeful yet pragmatic outlook in the end, the businesses near Wrexham University, Wrexham, stand as a reminder that even in imperfection, there is room for growth and improvement. It is a call to action for the proprietors to listen, to adapt, and to evolve. And for us, the travelers, the students of life, it is an invitation to explore with an open heart and an inquisitive mind. For sometimes, it is in the most unexpected of places that we find the most profound lessons. End with a reflective, lingering tone, and so, with the wisdom of the crowd as our guide, we navigate the landscape of Wrexham's commerce, ever hopeful that the future may bring a brighter chapter to the story of these businesses. Until then, let us tread lightly and with purpose, seeking the silver lining in the clouded skies of customer dissatisfaction. I am looking into crimes near Wrexham University, Wrexham, and it feels like the shops around there have a habit of taking advantage of anyone who just wants a short stay, you know. Businesses near Wrexham University, Wrexham, are like small cash-heavy places that sometimes get hit by counterfeit money. A group of people walked into a few city center stores, paid for cheap snacks with fake 20 notes, and walked out. The shop owners probably realized the loss only after the cash was counted, so they must have called the police and hoped the bank could flag the notes. The tourists who bought the food likely felt embarrassed and maybe tried to get a refund, only to be told they couldn't because the money was already gone. The thieves probably split the fake cash and disappeared before anyone could trace them. Businesses near Wrexham University, Wrexham, are like tech shops that let you test phones on the floor. In Rostu, a customer swapped a brand new smartphone with a broken one while the employee was distracted. The staff probably discovered the missing phone during inventory, reported it, and maybe increased security cameras. The victim, a tourist, might have tried to argue they never left the shop, felt trapped, and left the area feeling unsafe. The scammer likely fled with the device and may have tried to sell it online, hoping to avoid detection. Businesses near Wrexham University, Wrexham, are like retail parks where charity collectors stand outside stores. Fake volunteers in bright vests ask shoppers for donations to a non-existent cause. A few tourists probably handed over money, later realizing they'd been tricked, and probably complained to the police. The imposters probably moved to another spot or changed their story, hoping the next passerby wouldn't notice the lack of proper paperwork. Businesses near Wrexham University, Wrexham, are like cafes that get hit by the short change trick. Someone pretended to need change for a large note, then quickly asked for a different amount and slipped extra cash into their pocket. The barista likely counted the till, felt nervous, and called a manager. The tourist who lost 50 probably left the cafe feeling foolish and maybe reported the incident, while the scammer probably blended into the crowd and hoped the confusion would cover their tracks. Businesses near Wrexham University, Wrexham, are like souvenir shops that overprice and refuse refunds. A family bought defective mugs, went back for a refund, and were told the policy didn't allow it. They probably left angry, maybe posted a review online, and the shop probably kept the money, hoping the complaint would fade. The owners might face a small backlash, but the scammers probably continue the same practice, assuming tourists won't stay long enough to fight it.